What's going on, everybody? It's John Stamper from John Stamper Media, and this is a random conversation with a gentleman that I have known for many years. We did this a while back, Jim,
That's right, we
maybe a
did.
couple of years ago. But
Oh my
I
God, you
just,
know what? I looked it up. It was like 6 or 7 years ago. It's a
whoa,
while.
that's crazy. You mean people have actually been like talking on camera and doing this for like more than 5 years before COVID? They did it.
I'm stunned. I really stunned. Actually, I will say the last time we had a chat like this, there was not a camera. I think it was just audio, as I recall.
It was. And actually, I'm having a vivid memory of me being in an airport between connections, wanting to make sure that at that time, we captured, what you were up to and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's not only have we come a long way, the both of us, but it's been great. I know we were just kind of talking before we came on here, but it really has been great to learn and watch your journey, a lot of things that you've done. What I really want to get into today is this streak that you have been on.
The
This
street. Woo.
that everybody has been seeing. We're going to get into that. So I'm going to kind of just
Yeah.
move that to the side.
Ooh.
Before
Okay.
we do that, I would love to have you just share what you're up to. You're doing a lot of great stuff, and then we'll dive into the streak.
Absolutely. Over the past, I guess, 9 months or so, I've made a lot of changes and I got more clarity kind of on like what my purpose is. I kind of struggled for a while figuring that out after I sold my practices, did some corporate gigs, stuff like that. Like, where can I add the most value? And I realized, in 29 years as a dentist, I've gotten a lot of experience, as an educator, as a student, as a mentor. I've developed these amazing relationships. And, I've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And I realized that, I've got a lot to share with other dentists. And the kind of guy who can help dentists fast track their success, both through my successes and things I did really well, and through some of the things that didn't go as well as I would have liked to, or challenges that I figured out how to overcome. Learning from my successes, learning from my challenges, I think can really help a lot of dentists fast track their careers. So,
Yeah, it's often over the years, Jim, where I've had the opportunity to speak with people that have been in the dental industry for years, and you ask them like, what is one thing that's been very helpful for them? And the
yeah,
common answer is mentorship. It
big.
really, really, really is. And as you said, it comes in different, different shapes and sizes, right? I mean, some dentists will, have a mentor from outside of the dentistry. Some will obviously learn from those within. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I think it's just one of those things, as you know, that is so crucial to somebody wanting to really master their craft and get to the next level.
Absolutely. And one thing I learned fairly early on in my career was I didn't want to follow a guru because I didn't feel like anybody had like all of the answers. And everybody who I did follow, amazing people, tons of mentors, they had a lot of things I really loved that I felt like they were really good at and that vibed with me. And I decided to kind of pick and choose from each one of those people what really worked well for me and sort of fit my personality and what I wanted to create. And so, honestly, John, early in my career, I had a time where I had 17 mentors, and I'll never forget it because I had it written on a piece of paper, literally each mentor and what specifically I wanted to learn from each of them. And I really took that to heart. And I think that it really helped me be more successful more quickly in my career than I would have been otherwise. And it doesn't mean that there haven't been challenges and roadblocks and speed bumps along the way. I mean, it happens for all of us. But, now as somebody who's been a student, thousands of hours of CE, and I've been an educator and, helped countless dentists in, different ways in their careers, I decided it's time to kind of put it all together and utilize my experience, my relationships, and my knowledge of what's gone well and what hasn't gone well to help other dentists kind of fast track their success.
So the whole 17 mentor idea, you know what I think I'm going to do, Jim? Like Mother's Day is on Sunday, and I
Yeah,
might like put that on the fridge. Like, okay, I have a mentor, honey, for like fixing things around the house because I'm not the best at it. But then
I
that
like
way
it.
she knows, right? She knows that I've got somebody that I'm learning from, which is
Yeah,
pretty awesome. 17. Like,
brilliant.
how did that happen? Did it happen in batches? Was it just, I mean, I know that you've always
Yeah.
been thirsty for learning and things like that, but how did you get to that number per se?
You know what? It was probably through overeducating myself, which I tend to do. I'm a man of extremes, still am, and I still have to rein myself in at times. In fact, I'll share an epiphany I just had yesterday as we continue the conversation. But I was doing probably 250 to 400 hours of CE for about 5 or 6 years, from like maybe 2000, 2005. And I was impatient to learn everything. Like I literally wanted to be the very best dentist that I could be, the best business person I could be, the best communicator and leader. And so I literally tried to go to every big conference. I tried to go to every hands-on course, which I kind of did. I did oh my gosh, LVI, I did Pack Live, I did the Nash Institute, I went to Panky Dawson stuff, I went to gosh, who else? Coy Center. And I did all of the Hornbrook Group courses. And partway through the Hornbrook Group courses, I was asked to be a mentor, a faculty mentor, which was amazing, just a great experience. But through all of these different experiences, needless to say, I met a lot of amazing people, and I sought them out. I know that when you're at a conference with 1,000 people or 100 people or whatever, you're sitting in the audience and there are distractions and you don't really get a chance to ask questions or have a conversation. But I was pretty intentional about being that guy who just sought them out afterwards or sought them out in the bar, whatever. But like I developed friendships. And, I recognized in all of these friends pretty early on that they each had some things they did phenomenally well. And most of them had things that maybe didn't vibe with me or it wasn't the way that I
Right.
would want to do it. But I think through that process, and I mean, over a course of a couple of years, I did develop that list. And John, what's really cool about that is I think all of them are still friends of mine now. People who I looked up to, who mentored me and helped me in my career. I've had opportunities to also share the favor, like mentor them in some way, or just maintain this great relationship. And that's been fun. It's been the best part of my career, really.
It's been exciting. You mentioned clarity, right? You've done a lot. You've been around a lot of people in dentistry, and like you've mentioned, tried a lot of different things. It has
Yeah.
been great, Jim, to kind of watch from afar and have you kind of funnel down this clarity. I'd love to have you talk a little bit about these luxury dental retreats. I think you just got back from Dubai. You got another one
Yeah.
planned. So, what was kind of the genesis behind that, and wanting
Oh,
to and put that together?
yeah, you know what? It's funny. I was lacking clarity for a while and kind of purpose and how can I really create value in the dental world? I'd always planned on retiring from clinical at 50, which I did, and then parlay that into what's next. But then I got to that point and I played around in the corporate world for a little while. I spent a year as a corporate exec where John, literally, I was in a Marriott property 201 nights that year. And you can only imagine like what that does to you from a health standpoint, mental and physical. And I decided, this just wasn't the playground I wanted to be in. More power to everybody who does it. They're doing some
Right.
great things, but it wasn't for me. But I guess about 9 months ago, I got some clarity about like what I'm passionate about, and it's really education. I've loved it as both a student and a mentor, and I found over the years, though, that my best experiences, the deepest experience, relationship building, and value came from those small group experiences. Because let's be honest, most people aren't kind of, I don't want to say aggressive, but as assertive as I am and going out and finding those leaders and those people. And
Right.
so in a small group setting, you've got direct access to the educators, to one another. You're able to ask questions in real time about your specific situation. You're able to spend time over lunch, over dinner, over cocktails, over activities, like really digging deep and getting the most value, I think. So
Mhm.
that was
That's
sort of the
awesome.
genesis.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that. It's exciting. And I think the other thing that I took away, because I really enjoyed watching your content, is the props that you gave to the Ritz over in Dubai for their service, right? And I know we're kind of chuckling about that a little bit, but in all
Yeah.
seriousness, like
Yeah.
let's make a parallel between people always hear about this world-class service with the Ritz. And
Yeah.
is there anything that you can take away from that, Jim, that, for dental practices, right? When dental practices nowadays, there's a lot of
Yeah.
them around and a lot of different communities are trying to differentiate themselves from others. Any lessons from what you kind of learn when you go to a place like that you can bring back for people in the dental industry?
Well, I think going back 25 years, John, like to the my early days with all the travel and CE and everything, in parallel with that, I also became kind of a luxury traveler. My wife and I really enjoyed going great places, having great service. And then with my team, I took them to some cool places. And, it's like learning from the brands that you want to emulate. I think just like mentorship, I think is a great thing. And so I took all of those great experiences I had, and then, taking kids all over the world and staying in amazing places and getting this great service and feeling special, feeling singled out, feeling like they cared about me. It was natural to like do that with my practices too. And so we did. I mean, we really modeled everything we did around, just the great service that we had in other industries. And it was really great because it resonated and it was consistent and my team embraced it and felt pride in that. And so, we really predicated everything we did around sort of luxury brands. We got the education, we were doing exquisite dentistry, we were providing great customer service, and then we were providing an experience that stood out from almost everybody else. Now there are more and more people or dentists like jumping into that arena. And so I think there are a lot of
Right.
people doing great things. But yeah, I mean, if you want to differentiate yourself, take the lead. Look at what the Ritz-Carlton does, look at what some other luxury brands do. And, that's what I did. And so, like, just to bring it full circle, the great CE in small groups, the great travel experiences that I like tried to convey into my dental practices, and I think we did it really well because we did stand out. We were really successful. But like to bring that to education, I mean, like if I'm going to do something, I don't want to do it in a conference room, at a hotel. I mean, there's value there, and I still go to
Right.
conferences like
Right.
that. But
Right.
if I'm going to provide something that's above and beyond and totally unique and has greater value, I want a small group. I want them in an incredible setting where it's just outside the norm, and that's really what we're doing with luxury dental retreats.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I really think, Jim, that's the future. When I think about what people, at least in the dental industry, are looking for when it comes to learning, mentorship, ideas for them to move forward in their professional career, their business, their personal career or their personal
Yeah.
life, I should say. It just feels like we're seeing more and more of that, which is really exciting.
Because at the end of the day, it's about relationships, it's about
Yeah.
connection, and it's hard to
Yeah.
do that in a big room with a lot of people. But
Yeah.
just for instance, in I guess in March, I took a group of dentists to Puerto Vallarta. We rented a 22,000 square foot mansion, all luxury. We had two chefs, and we had a program really geared towards the dentists who were there and that one-on-one attention. And in 72 hours, I mean, we saw major transformation. I mean, and these are dentists already doing like between 3 and 10 million a year. I
Right.
mean, there's a theme there. It's like dentists who are already doing well are dentists who already invested in themselves and understand and recognize the value of continuing to invest in their own personal and professional growth. So, those are common themes that I'm carrying over to Dubai now. And Dubai is different for in a lot of ways. One, it's 5 days instead of 3 days. It's three speakers plus me instead of one speaker plus me. We're covering more territory to grow both personally and professionally. And I think, as elevated as the Puerto Vallarta experience was, I mean, this is taking it to a whole different level because, I mean, it's just one of those luxury destinations. It's on a lot of people's bucket lists. It had been on my bucket list forever, John.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but by the same token, I don't believe everything I see online, and I don't want to take 10 dentists to Dubai and be surprised by anything. And that's why I went a couple of weeks ago. I literally spent a week there testing out several venues. going to a bunch of different restaurants, going on a bunch of different excursions, because now I know exactly what our dentists are going to get. And by the way, my speakers, I want them to have an amazing
Yeah.
experience, and they will too.
That's a hell of a site visit, Jim.
It was. I mean,
You
it
mean
was
it's not like an association that's going to have a meeting in their city, in their downtown, and they're going to go check out you know the Hampton
John,
area.
John, I told you I'm a man of extremes,
I know you are. Okay.
and I'm all about the details. I
Yeah.
I
Love
like
that.
to make sure that things are curated in a way that I
Yeah.
can be proud of,
Yeah.
and so that's what I did it. I mean, my speakers are Steve Rasner. I mean, he
Yep.
has been an icon in the dental world for a long time. He's been
Yep.
running single practice over 5 million a year with massive profitability for a long time. He's going to
Yeah.
share all those secrets. I've got Dr. Jeff Buski, who is also, he's doing 4 million plus by himself, but he's also become a mentor and coach to dentists, including me, by the way, which we'll talk about
Yeah.
later. But he is helping dentists achieve life balance, between their body, mind, spirit, and how that impacts your relationships and your business. So he's helping so many dentists improve their lives personally and professionally. And then we've also got the incredibly dynamic Elijah Desmond. He started Smiles at Sea. He's started 7 companies that he's exited from successfully, and now he is a CEO and co-founder of Dental Pitch Brokerage. And he's going to get into how to increase the value of your practice, how to increase EBITDA, and basically plan a transition that will not only get you the most money, but will also help you find the best partner. Whether you're ready for it today or 5 years,
Right.
6 years down the road, it's always good to start planning early. So, I mean, I just think the value that we've created within that speaker line, plus me, um, I don't know. I don't think there are many opportunities to do that, especially in this kind of environment.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of living in the extremes, and that's where I wanted to go next. I'm super curious about this streak.
Yeah.
And you kind of teed it up a little bit, Jim. You talked
Yeah.
about this kind of perfect storm of, you had a lot of success early in your years. You made a lot of commitment to your craft and to dentistry. You had some success there. And then I think, as you know so well, Jim, a lot of people, based on where they are in their career, look at where other people are and they don't always
Yeah.
recognize that like their page one is not the same as that person's page 80, right? So it can be very challenging to want to compare or feel like you're falling behind. But nonetheless, I think in your situation, you accomplished a lot. And then it sounds like you did have that moment of kind of finding that next stage of clarity. Uh,
Mm.
and then about this streak. And so you made this decision to commit to not only just 2 days a week of working out or trying to do little things to get healthy, but like as you mentioned, to really kind of doing something. So my first question is, what was the moment? Was there a moment where this whole thing started that really kind of got you moving?
Well, there definitely was, but there's also some background and context that I'll provide first, so you understand why the moment was so impactful for me. In high school, I was an all-American runner, and I ran Div 1 in college, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Great. Well, then I got into my career and profession, and had 4 kids and was on the road like 25, 30 weekends a year, and so, I kind of got out of balance. I got unhealthy. I got put on a lot of weight, but I was still that guy in my head. And so in my 40s, my wife and I got into Ironman triathlon and again, extremes. And so dude, we were literally training 20 to 22 hours a week for about 5 years. And it was a lot, but I got super fit, super healthy, super fast again, and it was awesome. But I also got super broken down, physically speaking. My body just wasn't holding up to that kind of tension on a consistent basis. And then, with that, with all the injuries I had, some of them fairly serious and somewhat debilitating. I raced through all of them, by the way, like an idiot. But um, I had a lot of success, but I finally had to just shut it down. Well, I shut it down. I started to gain a little weight, because I had been like consuming tons of calories, but I was burning them all off really
Right.
fast because of this crazy workout load. And over the years, I started and stopped. I mean, I know the answers. Like I know how to get fit. My problem is my impatience and my level of intensity meant that I always went too hard, too long, too fast, and I ended up either burnt out pretty quickly or injured pretty quickly. And so carry all that into the pandemic. Well, the pandemic, like I think it hurt a lot of us in a lot of ways. And for me, it was like pretty severe, pretty intense. You know, I'm a social being, social creature, and it just shut that down for me for an extended period of time. I've got 4 kids who are amazing, and they're all at very formative stages. You know, they're looking to graduate from high school, looking to start college. Well, all of that is happening with this backdrop of a 1 in 100 year global health crisis. And so, I'll be honest, I got depressed, like really depressed. And what happened from there, I mean, I put on about 50 pounds. I mean, 50 pounds, which is, I mean, that's like death,
Yeah.
begging for a premature death. And, between my physical transformation in the wrong direction and my mental sort of challenges, we had a big financial setback as a result of the pandemic. I was in a bad place. I mean, honestly, for about 4 years. I could put on a happy face and I could like, you know, bring that energy when I needed to, but inside, I was really dying. And so, fast forward to last summer, my good friend Matthew Petchel invited me to an event put on by Len Tao, the supercharger dental practice.
Yep. Yep. Love
You
it.
know, yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Love
And
Len.
so, you know what? I went. I went more just to see my friends, network, hang out, and you know what, John? As a result of that, I met some amazing people, like 10 or 20 amazing people. But the two who I think really stood out the most were the keynote speakers, Dr. Jeff Buski and Dr. Steve Rasner.
Mhm.
And whoa, lo and behold, I just mentioned they're speaking with me in Dubai.
Love it. I love it.
And so, I hit it off with both of them really quickly. Jeff and I became friends, and within a month, Jeff also kind of became a mentor to me. And why did that happen? Because his story really resonated at the Supercharge event. He got up there and he talked about like where he was 10 years ago, and he wasn't in a good place. He was depressed, he was drinking too much, he was on the verge of his second divorce, just a lot of things. And financially, things weren't going well. A lot of things were really going downhill, like they do for so many dentists,
Right.
and especially male dentists. Like
Right.
his story so resonated with me and where I kind of felt like I was at that time. But even more so, I thought about all the dentists out there, and for 30 plus years, we've been the industry, the profession leaders in drug abuse, divorce, and suicide. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, dentistry is such a great profession. There's so much potential to create not only value for your patients and your team, but for your family and to have a great life. Well, Jeff went through all that, but he came out of it. It took him years, but he developed an entire system and frameworks to where he did optimize his life, in terms of body, mind, and spirit, relationships, and business. And so now he's out there kind of preaching that gospel to the dental profession. And John, the first time he got off stage, I went and grabbed him. I mean, dude, like probably 70% of dentists are dealing with part of
Yeah.
this or all of this. And I want to help you spread the message.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty passionate about it now, and everything we do that's worked into it because we want people to not only become better dentists and better business people, but we want them to be more balanced, more healthy, and just have better lives all around.
So that was the trigger point. Thanks for sharing that, by the way. Love
Yeah.
that. It is kind of a full circle moment, like you mentioned. I mean, what you're doing now, I think in a way, you're giving back to the profession and bringing in the likes of who is going to be at your retreat, right? Like with Jeff and a lot of those guys, which means a lot. But so that was the trigger moment
Yeah.
for the streak. So between like when the time that like you had this aha, okay, you know what? Thanks for the
Yeah.
inspiration, Jeff. Now I need to kind of like get back on my path.
Right.
What did that look like and how did you get started?
For sure. A month later, my birthday turned 55 on July 27th. And on July 28th, I woke up and just made a decision to make some changes. And Jeff had helped me find some clarity, and I was implementing his structure and frameworks, and that made a big difference because it's one thing to kind of know the answers or having been there, done that before,
Yeah.
but to have that structure, to have that accountability, somebody who understands and somebody who's checking in with me regularly, it
Mhm.
makes a big difference. And I think one of the key things, John, was that I decided for the first time in my life I was going to be patient. I didn't have to have it all like in 2 weeks. I didn't have to lose 23 pounds in a month. I've done all those things before. And it never ends well because it's not sustainable. And so what I
Right.
decided was to implement life strategies that were sustainable, that I knew or felt confident that I could do for the rest of my life. And so I read the book Atomic Habits. It's all
Mhm.
about like 1% daily, just with
Yep.
consistency. And it's
Yep.
hard to be consistent if you don't have some accountability and like some early success, some early like, man, like this is really working to keep you encouraged and enthusiastic about it. And so John, on July 28th, the day after I turned 55, I worked out and decided that that's what I was going to do every day. And, it's hard to say that with a lot of confidence or conviction and feel like it's actually going to happen,
Yeah.
but it's been magic. I mean, because alongside that, I also started meditating consistently for the first time in my life. I started journaling for literally the first time in my life. I started reading more books on personal growth, which I'd always had a hard time like getting through. I love reading for pleasure. I love the escape,
Mhm.
but no matter how good these 50 books up here are that I bought over the years on the recommendation of other mentors, I never was really able to get through any of them because I got bored or distracted. My ADHD like had me in like 100 different directions. But reading, journaling, meditating combined with my workouts has helped me stay accountable to myself, and the results have been nothing short of extraordinary.
Mhm. And how many days are we at now?
Today was day 286. So, after 100 days, I thought, wow, what a milestone. When I was a teenager and 20 something, I mentioned that I ran Div 1 track in cross country in college. The longest workout streak I ever had was 101 days, because we always incorporated rest days and all that
Right.
sort of thing.
Right.
Even with triathlon training, there was always a rest day worked into it because your body needs time to recover and all that sort of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
But what I determined was because my workouts weren't intense, I mean, by my standards, not
Right.
intense at all, they were just
Right.
consistent, that 1% daily. And on
Mhm.
the hardest days where it would have been easy just not to do it, those are the most important days, even if it's only 15 or 20 minutes, because that bridges things. And even if you're not making a gain physically so much, the mental impact of keeping that going, it's been huge for me. So parlaying 100 days into 200 days into 250 days, now 286 days. I mean, it's just who I am, and I'm not going to compromise. That having been said, do I have rest days? Yeah, I mean, there are days where my workouts consist of an hour walk.
Mhm.
And that's still a workout. I may be
Right.
burning 400 or 500 calories,
Right.
but it's really low stress on my body, and it's really good for my mind to just have that low intensity time. And so, knock on wood, but 286 days in, I mean, I'm a guy who used to have an injury a month, tearing a hamstring, tearing Achilles tendon, tearing a rotator cuff, tearing a bicipital tendon, like herniating a disc. I haven't had any of those things in 286 days.
Well, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's
I
been fun to
appreciate it.
watch. And, another level of accountability that people don't realize is the accountability of social media, which sounds a little counterintuitive. But
Yeah.
as you know, Jim, there is this
Yeah.
element of once you make that decision to put something out there in
Yeah.
the digital landscape, you do start to
Absolutely.
attract people that cheer for you, that, are it's kind of an interesting dynamic, right? But the one thing I wanted to ask you is if along the way, along these 286 days, I
Yeah.
mean, you spoke about it, right? You've had some moments where there's some days that were harder than others. Any
Yeah.
point along the way that you can go back on, maybe like a month in or 2 months in, where it was like, you thought about it, like, maybe not that day and then kind of getting back on, or like, did the more that you went, it was like, I'm in. Now, obviously, you've got a
Yeah,
foundation of like this engine, but any moments
right.
along the way?
A whole bunch of them actually, but going back to the social media aspect, yeah, I decided fairly early on to publicize it because that's another layer of accountability.
Yes.
I didn't want to lose credibility by like quitting. And in terms of successes and keeping it going, it's like I started to lose weight pretty quickly, which was great. But even more so, John, and then I'll tell you some of the biggest challenges I've had. Um, More so, dude, I have people DM me or text me every single day. Like half of them dentists, half of them not dentists. Like, hey man, like this is really inspiring me. And I didn't necessarily start with that intent,
Right.
but once I realized that it was, like I decided, well, now I've got another reason to set that example. In terms of value creation, it doesn't have to be all about dentists. While I have
Yeah.
several endeavors in the dental field that I'm definitely creating value, I realized like just normal people, non-dentists who are connected
Yeah.
to me were feeling that vibe. I mean, I've had more than 100 people reach out and say, "Hey man, it's been inspiring me. I started working out again. Hey, I've lost 20 pounds." Like stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes it like really more important to me. Whether
Completely.
you're a dentist or not, like we're all human beings and we can all learn from one another for
Yeah,
sure.
and as you know, Jim, like that fuels you, right? I'm sure there was a couple of days where it's harder than others, uh,
Mm,
and
yeah.
yet you know that there's this audience there or these people there that you know that you have helped them in some form or fashion, and it's just this, it's like this accountability ladder, right? That just keeps
Yeah.
stacking on top of each other, which is really cool.
For sure. In the challenging days, it used to be like if I got in a new routine, I could be great for 20 or 30 days, but then I'd travel and be like, ugh, like my routine is broken. And like, man, we were up
Yeah.
late last night, having cocktails, talking, and I'm not going to get up this morning and stuff like that. And breaking that momentum is something that like was always hard for me to circle back and recover from. And so in this case, I've continued to travel quite a bit.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's been a big
That's
part of it.
that's always challenging because it's going to mean either less sleep or cutting out of a session or somewhere carving out that time to make sure I get in my workout and do all this other stuff. And so I just created a shorter framework. Like right now when I'm at home, my gym time is like 2 hours, like doing all these things that are important to me and my own personal growth and health. But, on the road, I may condense that down to 60 to 90 minutes,
Yeah.
And so not being legalistic is important for me to stay consistent. But the other bigger travel things, just for instance, when I flew to Puerto Vallarta, I think in November, I think I landed at 8 p.m. and it was like maybe 9:30 by the time I got to my Airbnb. And I was exhausted, dude. And I had gotten up too early to get in a workout. I'm like, ugh, I just want to go get dinner. So you know what? I said, screw it. I'm going to go down. I'm just going to get it done. And I did like a 30-minute workout. It was not any big thing, but I got it done. And for up here, it was really good bridging that gap. But then the two probably most challenging days were my day I traveled to Dubai and the day I traveled home.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
I got to my hotel, my first hotel in Dubai at 9:30 at night, checked in. I was in my room at 10 o'clock. And I was like, you know what? And I already planned for it. I was planning to do it no matter what, just because I wasn't going to lose the streak over it. So, dude, I was in the gym at 10 o'clock, I guess. I did a half-hour workout. I went up, showered up, and I had a 11 o'clock dinner reservation. And so, you know what? Got the workout done. I got a great freaking fine dining experience at 11 o'clock and I felt really good about it. And
Yeah.
then when I flew home at the end of this week, uh, geez, I got home. I mean, sometime in the evening, and again, I was just exhausted. I mean, the jet lag because the flight home was 15 hours, and it was the last thing I wanted to do. And this was even worse. I fell asleep on the couch watching TV with my wife. I had planned on working out at like 9 o'clock. Well, I woke up, thankfully, at 11 o'clock on the couch. It's like, oh, geez, I need to get downstairs. So I went down to the gym and it was just pure luck that I woke up. But I went downstairs and I got into 30-minute workouts. So I kept the streak alive. So it'll end at some point, but so far, no good reason to quit.
I love that. Let's talk about the mental clarity. I mean, obviously, just the health impact is so positive, as you
Yeah,
mentioned, and I think the other thing that's interesting is how you figured out a way to manage working out all the time and managing the injuries, right? To be smart about how you're going to work out. Because I
yeah,
think it sounds
right.
like as you've determined, this is more than just your physical health, right? This has obviously played
Yeah.
a big part of your mental health and clarity. But talk a little bit about that and maybe at different times in your career, you're a driven guy, Jim, right? So like, I
Yeah.
mean, but what's been different this time from this commitment on the mental clarity side?
Well, going back just the career, yeah, like there were times, no matter how positive I was and upbeat I was, there were times where I went through ruts, and they may last for a month or two.
Yeah.
And I always needed something, a trigger to like snap out of it. And for me, it was usually going to an event and being with my people, the people that I looked up to, the people I vibed with, the people that I learned from, was inspired by, that sort of thing. And so that's how I got through it in dentistry. And I didn't even necessarily have to learn a whole lot from having been there. I just needed that energy and that
Right.
enthusiasm and that inspiration. Now this whole thing, I mean, meditation, journaling, reading, exercising, those all lead you to a better place, and those little steps create huge, massive change. And it has for me. I mean, I'm down 60 pounds. But so I'm healthier now than I was going into the pandemic, frankly.
Right.
But I mean, beyond that, it does kind of give you some clarity, thinking more, learning more, getting kind of that purpose, that vision for what you want to do. And that's all amazing. And that's how it has been. That having been said, I've still slipped back into old habits, and the old habit of like just being all in and extreme.
Mhm.
Um, it actually got to the point where it was too much, John. Like yesterday, literally yesterday morning, I woke up and I was a little foggy and I was just tired. And what I realized, John, was for months on end now, I've been working like 90 plus hours a week. And I've been working out every day, and I've been sleeping an average of 4 hours a night. Now, I made it through dental school in my 20s on 4 hours a night for 4 years because I was, class president, student body vice president, fraternity president. I led a Bible study. I was like doing all of these things and I wasn't sleeping. At 25, it's a different situation from when you're 55. And like for me, I've always seen it as a badge of honor that I could outwork anybody. Like, I mean, in high school, our team trained harder than any team in the country, and led to state championships. We were number 7 in the country, blah, blah, blah. And that was the work ethic that was instilled in me as a teenager. Well, having that work ethic, I think, is admirable within limits. And I had started to push the boundaries to places you shouldn't push those boundaries. Last week, I hit 104 hours. I keep loose track of it just because
Mentally.
that's like how
Yeah.
my brain works. I
Mhm.
had 4 17-hour days, like where I would work, say, 12 hours. And then after my wife went to bed at 8 o'clock, she goes to bed early, I would get in another 4 to 7 hours. And it was because my brain was just going and I have all these ideas. And frankly, I just have a lot to do because I'm building something
Yeah.
actually pretty big.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, that moment of clarity was, uh, I'm not invincible. My mom told me that in my 20s and I didn't believe her. Well, at 55, I recognized that pattern, that behavior pattern, while maybe I'm creating value for a lot of other people, um, I'm not performing at my highest level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting because again, I think that any of us that are striving to accomplish whatever it is, grow a business,
Yeah.
a whole host of things, it is always that balance, right, Jim, between like that whatever it is you're going to do, you're going to have to put the investment and the time in. Like
Yeah,
it's very hard to get away from that. The question is,
absolutely.
like you mentioned, is like, what does that look like? And then I would imagine that you've got to this new level in your life where you've checked a lot of boxes on the health side, a lot of things that
Yeah.
a lot of individuals are not doing. And
Right.
so it's like once you get to that next bar, then it's okay. Like I've got, you build a level of confidence, right? You can kind of go to the next. But it is interesting that
For sure.
clarity, you're at a point now where it kind of gives you that self check. And so here's my question on that.
Yeah.
So looking at what you want to accomplish,
Yeah.
big things this next stage versus kind of where you are now. Does it scare you a little bit, or like do you have the confidence to know, you know what? I've been through a lot. I've got a circle around me that is strong that I can
Yeah.
accomplish those things and not have to maybe put in as much as I felt like I needed to in the past. Like what does that look like?
Huh. Wow. It's a lot to think about, lot to answer, lot to talk about because there are a bunch of different factors there. Like where I am now and why I had that epiphany yesterday. The people around me that are like supporting me and are kind of in on this with me and the ecosystem that I'm building and what that takes, what it would look like if I did it in a half-ass way versus what it would look like if I do it the Jim Arnold way and then maybe finding a happy medium in there. I did read the book Who Not How not too long ago, and it was really like talking a lot about the people in your life and the people who add value and the people who can like help you do a lot of those things. And I've never been one to ask for favors. I'm very independent and I don't want anybody to feel like I need anything or want to take advantage of them. But by the same token, John, like pretty quickly, 9 months ago, I had 10 really good friends, or I guess nine, and I'm the 10th. Really good friends who are rock stars in the industry say, "Hey, man, I want to be a part of this. Like, I want to be part of your faculty." I mean, I mentioned Rasner, Buski, Elijah Desmond, but Arun Garg, the implant master, Deborah Gay King, who is like unbelievably successful cosmetic dentist in Atlanta, one of the very best, who I sought out 25 years ago. I cold called her 25 years ago, said, "Hey, can I come spend a day in your practice?" It's like, I guess so. Well, we're still good friends, as are two of her associates who were there then, who are now leaders in the dental world. Um, my old dental school roommate, Trent Smallwood, who's prolific speaker and educator, and we've done a lot of cool stuff together. Valerie Dangler, who I think is one of the best hygienists and
Hygiene.
speakers in the industry. Gary Takis, unbelievable in terms of what he brings to the table. Fred Joyle. I mean, all these amazing people are like, "Hey, man, I want to be a part of this, and I'm going to help in any way I can." I mean, it's super humbling. But what I haven't done a good job of is kind of regulating, again, my workload and the extensive ecosystem that I'm setting up. I mean, I have another 30 people want to be on my faculty, and I am going to expand it because there's so many people who are niche experts and are so good at what they do that I want to help amplify their voices to create value together. Um, but yesterday, that realization that 104 hours or 90 hours or 4 hours of sleep, just like indefinitely, isn't sustainable. And it was having an impact on me and my efficacy. Like I can push out a lot of social media and I'm writing a newsletter every week and I'm writing a blog every week and I'm talking about things like clarity, leadership, time blocking, vision casting, all of these things that are, I think, relevant to anybody, not just dentists, but are really geared towards dentists. And everything from patient handoffs to new patient exams to financial arrangements to communication, how to run an effective meeting, like all these things. I mean, I've written 15 blogs and newsletters on all of these topics. But yesterday, I woke up just like foggy and unclear and exhausted, and I thought, I'm like pushing this stuff out, but I'm not living it now. I'm living parts of it, but if you don't get your rest, you're not going to communicate as effectively as you would otherwise. Um, you're not going to work as efficiently as you would if you were well rested. And like you're not going to have life balance. I'm all about life balance, and I've gotten out of balance now. My relationships aren't what they should be because it's like it's almost like this obligatory 2 or 3 hours and then I back to it, and my brain is always there and I'm always on my phone, and not fully present. So anyway, that was the clarity I got yesterday morning, and I started to make changes already.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think it's important, right? Because I think that, like you mentioned, for those that have been cheering you on, rightfully so, that have been supporting you in this next journey of yours in dentistry to really kind of continue to push things forward for the profession
Yeah.
you love.
Yeah.
There's that other side of that, right? They don't always see or know like what it takes to go through that. And everybody's dealing with that, right, Jim? I mean, I think
Sure.
anybody in some form or fashion that is trying to build something, run something, manage something. And I
Yeah.
think what I'm encouraged about, and I wanted to kind of get your thoughts when you look at the future of dentistry, of what you're most excited about, because I feel like, and please tell me if I'm wrong here, that we're like at this point where people that have been in dentistry for a while, we're starting to address what have been some of the real issues below the surface that
For
have not
sure.
been talked about. It was very difficult for people to be vulnerable about. And yet I'm seeing little by little that these things are coming to the forefront and people are talking about them. And it encourages me because
Yeah.
although it might be challenging for some people to kind of work through some of that. I mean, the reality is to get to this next level to continue to serve patients in the crazy world that we live in now. I just feel like dentistry is going to need a lot of that. It's going to need a strong foundation of the mental support and collaboration. So just
Yeah.
yeah.
No doubt. And you know what? The first day of dental school in 1992, they told us, hey, just so you know, the profession you're getting into has the highest drug abuse, suicide, divorce rates, blah, blah, blah. And things really haven't changed much over the last, how many years is that? 33 years. And it's really a sad, sad statement. And I think that a lot of it comes down to, like in society, people don't want to show vulnerability. Now, as a student, I always most respected and gave the most, I guess, deference to guys and women who got up there and were authentic and pretty transparent. And they didn't just share their successes, but they also shared some of their failures or mistakes or challenges or just things that didn't go well for whatever reason. And I felt as a dentist that that sort of authenticity gave them credibility. And that credibility, I think, made them much better at communicating and helping other people. And I've always been pretty transparent and very authentic. That having been said, I haven't necessarily always been vulnerable. And I came to the realization sometime over this past 9 months that uh, without that vulnerability aspect, I I can't really help dentists the way that I want to help them. And so showing a little bit of vulnerability, for me, and I think a lot of other people in the dental space have started to do that a little more. I think that's the only way, because Jeff Buski did it. He got up on stage and shared all of this stuff
Yeah.
that was like so personal. It's like, wow, talk about impactful. And I realized, like, if I want to have an impact on others' lives, if I want to help move the needle in a positive direction, mental health, life balance, all that sort of thing, then I got to be real, and I got to be a little more vulnerable than I have been. And so, it's been challenging. I'm not one who's ever liked being on camera, for instance. The first time, like, I held my phone up and like did a video. Oh my God, it was just mortifying. Like I didn't even like being on video podcasts because I don't feel comfortable. And I've gotten more comfortable, but
Yeah.
it takes that vulnerability.
Well, we've been on here for almost an hour, and
Wow.
I
It's
really
gone
enjoyed,
fast.
I really enjoyed you sharing that. It is interesting, right? It's like anything else. The more you do it, the more reps you get, the more comfortable you can become. But
For
uh,
sure.
yeah, so on that note, as we kind of wrap, and this has been great, by the way. What
No,
are
thank
you what are you excited about most when you look at the future of dentistry? Like what gets Jim out of bed 1 hour earlier than he normally would have and sleeping 4 hours and gets up an extra hour
Yeah, yeah,
of like
man.
just what's really kind of moving you forward?
Look, I get up at 5 a.m. so that I can have the gym time. Not
Yeah.
JYM, but JIM, which includes JYM.
I like that.
But like if I want to work on myself, I got to work on myself before I can help other people. I have to be in a good space. And so those couple of hours every morning are why I get up early. What am I excited about? I'm excited about a lot of things. Obviously, we're moving the needle in a lot of ways from a technology standpoint, obviously AI and all that sort of thing. And every time like I read an article or I hear a talk or I see a social media post about the cool stuff that's going on, I think, man, maybe I should get back into the game and start practicing again because I missed out on all this cool stuff, and I don't intend to do that, but it does make the profession look a lot cooler to
Yeah.
everybody. Makes communication with patients better, makes communication with your team better, makes things more efficient, can make things more profitable. Just so many things, whether it's a diagnostic tool or it's AI listening to your phone calls and giving you feedback, whether you're using ChatGPT. I mean, there's just so many things that are exciting and new and digital workflows and that sort of thing. And then also, um, I've been very involved in the DSO space over the last decade, I guess. I sold to a DSO 10 years ago. I had a great outcome, and then I had some things that didn't go so well after that. And then I worked for a 250 practice DSO and saw some good things and saw some things that I didn't like so much. But during the pandemic and since the pandemic, there have been some really bad outcomes for dentists. And it's come down to, I think, a lot of DSOs and especially PE-backed DSOs who are answerable to their investors, as well they should be. They should provide great returns for their investors, as long as they don't compromise things on the other end of the spectrum. And some do it well, some don't do it well. But what I realized, John, is nobody's ever going to do it as well as a dentist who's kind of been there, done that, understands all the different nuances, has seen successes, seen failures, had huge wins, huge losses, been involved in 60 or 70 deals over the years, have kind of seen it all. What I realized was I need to get back into practice ownership again, because I'm really good at it, doing it the right way, not compromising on quality of care, not compromising on the service or the product that you deliver for people. And being a dentist, I understand like how hard it is, what it takes. I understand the insecurities when it comes to a transition, like your life's work. Like what are you going to get for it? Are you going to get the most money possible? Are you going to get the best partner possible? Are you going to continue to have autonomy? Are your patients going to be cared for? Is your team going to be cared for? Is your legacy going to go on? All of those things. I mean, I've gone through all these different stages. And, now I'm in a position where I can help other dentists go through those stages, whether it's a transition with me, and joining my practice group, or helping you find the right people to transition you into a different situation. Like I feel like I can provide all of that, and do it without a lot of emotion involved, just with that heart for service and that knowledge that, whatever you do with me, it's going to be done right. And so for me personally, I'm excited about all the different avenues I can create value.
It's interesting, Jim. Technology and the excitement about technology into dentistry kind of woke up other industries to now they recognize dentistry. And
Yeah, it's true.
now,
Dentistry's cool now.
it's cool. And somebody kind of put two and two together that the head is connected to the body. And maybe if all the things that you and all of your clinical professionals have been saying for years about how important it is to take care of our oral health because it could affect
Yeah,
other parts of the body, it's like people
absolutely.
have finally realized that, right?
Oh man.
Dentistry is on the map. It took a long time. And it's funny. Maybe this was pre-COVID. I had a conversation
Yeah,
with an I think it was a periodontist, and we it was on one of my original podcasts, and we were talking about the oral systemic link, and he's like, John, he goes,
yeah,
I was talking about that at like parties in the 80s, dude. Like this is not like a new thing.
yeah,
It's
right.
just that it's taken all these years, to your point, to get dentistry on the map. And yet I think if you combine that with now this technology and of course the leadership of individuals like yourself and those that have been there, done that,
Yeah,
helping the younger generation, we can, a lot of challenges, no doubt at
yeah,
all, right? There's a lot of challenges in dentistry right now.
no
However,
doubt.
it's what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to be positive and move it forward, or are you going to choose
Yeah.
to be a victim? So
Well, coming out of the pandemic, as I said, there were some bad outcomes. Dentists lost millions of dollars when the DSOs got overextended and banks came in and took everything, or they did a financial restructure. Millions of dollars is a big deal, when it's your life's work and you've set yourself up for, great post career. I don't want to say retirement because I would never retire. I'm always going to do something. But when you've set your life up, done all the right things, and then gotten just smacked in the face, like, I mean, hundreds, if not thousands, of doctors have gone through that. Um, it's bad, but I think some positive things have come out of it too. I mean, I think that things are being restructured, and I think that more dentists are focusing on alignment with their buyer, partner, whatever you want to call it, than they are just on the highest dollar. I mean, you want
Right.
to get maximum value, but if you don't pick the right partner and you're not properly aligned, your life is going to be pretty miserable. And I've seen a lot of dentists go through that. Like, man, I got a ton of money, but this sucks. Like what I'm doing sucks because we're not aligned, because there are groups that do it really well, but there are also groups who are looking to flip in 3 to 5 years. And that doesn't lend itself to investing in your practice, investing in your people. It means that, gosh, if we can drop $1,000 expense, that's 15 times at sale. We're increasing EBITDA and whatever your multiple is. It's like that. Well, great. That's awesome for your investors. It's awesome for a 3 to 5 year flip. But when you're the people there, you're the boots on the ground, you're the one actually providing the service and the care, and you're there for your patients, and you're the ones of being affected by it. When uh, they say, hey, that office manager or hygienist, we can backfill that position because they're too expensive or whatever. They're undervaluing that relationship capital that they've built. Relationships with patients, relationships with you, relationships with the team, relationships with the office itself and where everything is. And it's way more expensive to replace somebody than it is to keep them happy. And if that means an extra dollar or two an hour, I mean, you'd be an idiot not to do what it takes to keep your team intact. And so alignment is super important.
And I really feel like, Jim, that dentistry, when it comes to where healthcare is now, has the opportunity to be that leading profession in healthcare, being that patients,
Yeah.
are supposed to come twice a year, right? For
Yeah.
preventative nature and things like that.
Or
Primary
more.
care, it feels
Yeah.
like AI is going to completely change primary care. And so I look at this opportunity for dentists and how they can serve their communities and help their patients and the like. Again, like I feel like it's kind of time to maybe carry that success flag for dentistry in the sense of like leading the charge, right?
For sure. When it comes down to the oral systemic link, I mean, we're the only ones who are going to do it. We're the ones driving that, bringing medicine into dentistry and dentistry into medicine and having a closer relationship. I mean, the medical community hasn't necessarily seen that need, and let's be honest, a lot of physicians don't take what we do all that seriously. Oh, it's just
Yep.
teeth.
Yep.
Without really recognizing, and that's so ironic, isn't it? I mean, the
Yeah.
people who are supposed to be the quarterback for your overall health so discount this whole oral cavity and all the bacteria and all the things and how it affects the rest of your physical health is kind of absurd. And a lot of physicians are the worst patients you'll ever have too. So yes, it takes dentists to get that message out to the medical community, develop those great relationships, those collaborations, and then communicate it to the world at large. So people and patients see that value as well.
Absolutely. Two last questions. This has been great. Thank you so much for your time.
My
The
pleasure. It's been
first
great.
is when you look back at your career, one regret.
Huh. One regret. Oh boy. Man, that's a tough one because if I sat and thought about it, I could probably come up with several. Um, and I don't want to frame it as regret. I would
Positive in a
like to,
positive way, in a
yeah,
positive way.
I'd rather reframe some of the mistakes and things as opportunities for growth, opportunities for maybe a better overall view of the profession and how I can help other dentists maybe avoid some of those things. But oh boy, I think that I overdid my education. It's not a regret because others can learn from that.
Right.
That's one. Two, I got burned out really early in my career because I was seeing way too many patients, and all of a sudden I was making a lot of money, but it wasn't enough. I needed to go back and restructure the whole thing to see less patients and provide higher level of care and attention and service. So that wasn't a regret. I learned from that and then made twice as much money doing it even better. Um, I regret selling at 45. I think that I probably should have held out a little bit, not held out, but I should have kept doing it longer than I did.
Yeah.
I would have gotten more education as far as transitions go, and I got an incredible deal. It was one of those things I couldn't say no to, but I didn't necessarily get the expert advice that could have ended up in a better transaction and transition for me. Um, those are some things.
Yeah.
There's just some inflection points. I think when the pandemic hit, I think that uh, instead of taking some of those setbacks in stride and just like, man, we're gonna power through it. Like, I mean, that's my personality. That's how I've been my entire life. I had that period where I didn't. I had a little bit of a victim's mentality, and it's not a good way to live. It's not a good way to live or lead. And so that I could call that a regret. I feel like I lost a few years there that I'm regaining and I'm in a good place now and I learned from it. But I'd say those are some of the things, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well,
There
you
are
and I
probably
are
a lot
both.
more, but
No, I listen. I think you and I are both two very optimistic people, right? I mean, I think
yeah,
we tend to look at the glass half full, and maybe we can use
yeah,
this conversation as a means to bury the word regret and instead
yeah,
look at it the way that you framed it, which I think is so important, which is it's easy at that moment, which is the reason why I wanted to bring it up, to
yeah,
emotionally to feel like it's a regret. But then, like you said, through
for sure.
the scape of time and to be able to look back at it, it really is a lesson, it's an opportunity, it's a challenge for others to learn, all that good stuff.
I
Yeah,
think you have to reframe those things
completely.
mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally. And I've usually been pretty good about that, but I've had a few lapses over the years. And I had an amazing career, John. I cannot look back and say, wow, like I wish I had done everything differently. I can look back and say other people can do things more efficiently and maybe be even more effective in a shorter period of time than I was. But man, I got to do everything. I mean, I got to teach, I got to learn, I owned multiple practices, I led a bunch of different teams, I helped elevate my teams into higher positions in the industry. I've gotten to do a lot of really cool stuff. I made a lot of money. I lost a lot of money. I have a great life. So I can't look at it as regret. I can only look at it as life lessons.
And then last one, uh, maybe a couple of your best decisions, because as someone that has had the courage to make decisions and to take risks and not always know what's on the other side of it,
Yeah.
the only way that you do that, as you know, Jim, is you get better at decision making. But as you look back, what are a couple of decisions that you look back and you're like, nailed it?
Wow, good man. That's an awesome question. First of all, I got married and we bought our first practice on our 1 year anniversary. And the day we walked in the door, John, we had $1 million worth of debt and $10,000 saved. It was scary, man. It was scary. And we spent a year prepping for that. I talk about 90-hour work weeks. Well, my wife and I did that together, 90 hours a week for a year. We didn't turn on a TV literally for a year. And we paid the price. We put in the work, and we hit the ground running, and we're super successful right away. Almost too successful. We made a lot of mistakes. We changed things too fast, but uh, we were so successful that I got to a point of burnout. And the best decision I ever made, John, was to kind of blow it all up and almost start over again. And what that looked like was going out and getting the CE, getting trained, getting mentors, and changing my entire practice model. And we cut our income in half for a couple of years there. I mean, I was spending between $100,000 and $200,000 a year on education. I was flying my team all over the country. We're learning all this stuff, the fire hose, and so I think making a decision to focus more on what would make me happy and feel fulfilled as a dentist as opposed to just making a lot of money, that was huge and ultimately led to greater satisfaction, greater quality of care, being a better leader, getting to a point where I could own multiple practices, which I'd say is the second best decision. Getting that second practice instead of becoming like this thing that sucked the life out of me, it actually started to create some freedom because I hired another dentist. So now we had three dentists and two practices, which meant that I could delegate a little more while making some passive income. That was huge. And I'd say the same thing about the third practice. So I don't know. I think those were really pivotal decisions that made a big impact early in my career.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I can sit here and talk to you forever, right? We could talk about a lot of different things.
Sure, we
It
could.
really has been great to kind of watch. I remember this might be pre-streak, like a little bit before. I think we kind of ran into each other maybe at Dykema last year.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we did.
I got to tell you, I mean, I could kind of see it in your eyes. Like I've had a lot of respect for you over the years. I know you've accomplished a lot of things, and I could
Yeah,
kind of see it in your eyes that it was like, okay, like where's Jim going to go next? And you obviously have made those decisions, and you're doing so many great things. So
thank
this has been
you.
awesome. I'm excited to kind of watch where it goes, and where that streak
Same for you,
goes.
buddy.
Right?
Same for you. Well, thank you. Yeah, the streak is has a life of its own, and if I'm at home, it's really easy to do every single day. When I'm on the road, it gets harder, but
Get it.
I'll just turn all that around and say to you, like from the minute I met you, however many years ago, I was just really impressed with everything you were doing and the level you were doing it at, and it's been fun to watch how you've evolved your career and the services you provide and the value you provide and the quality. It's awesome, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, a better guy. And I love what you're doing for Dennis. Thank you, and keep it up.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to kind of get this out and for some more people to learn about the great work that you're doing. And
Thank you.
certainly, we'll put anything in there about luxury dental retreats because who does not want to go to Dubai and hang out at the Ritz? I mean, sign me up, Jim. Let's go.
And with incredible people. I mean, you get 5 days
Completely. Yes, that's
With
true.
Steve
Yes.
Rasner, with Jeff
Yes.
Luskey, Elijah
Yeah.
Desmond. I mean,
Love it.
it's going to be a learning experience, but it's also going to be so fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, hope
Sweet.
everybody looks into it, and the 10 people who are the best fit will be there with us.
I love it. Well, Jim, do me a favor and get some sleep tonight, would you? Get a little
I
bit of
got
rest.
8 hours last night.
Yes. I
Yesterday,
love it.
clarity, made a commitment, took a
Amazing.
sleep aid. I slept 8 hours, and I'm looking at six as the bar,
Yeah.
but it has begun, and I'm going to be better at everything I do, and I'm going to communicate better. I'm going to be more Jim than I have been maybe over the past few months.
Good for you. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Take care, John. Thanks.